Large stretches of the city remain quiet as fear grips daily movement. Security has been tightened across the region.
Outside of the capital Caracas, like here in the western city of Mérida, life is generally calm. As you can see, the square behind me is largely empty. Most Venezuelans are currently in their homes or glued to social media to find out what will happen after the illegal US bombing of the capital Caracas in the early hours of this morning.
The regional government is set to hold a meeting concerning situation ahead.
These are the people who will now be looking at these developments in Caracas and maybe, while condemning the attacks by the US government against Venezuelan sovereignty, against international law, they will also be looking with a little bit of hope to see if this brings the sort of changes that they wish to see for a better Venezuela.
Concerns have intensified after Trump hinted at a possible second wave of attacks on Venezuela. The fear is rooted in what residents have already witnessed. Back in Maracaibo, uncertainty dominates. For many, the question remains, what does tomorrow look like?
Trump's anti-war promises have now completely crumbled. Despite vowing no new wars and to end wars, United States forces launched pre-dawn strikes on Caracas, capturing Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and wife Sila Force. Watch the soundbites of Trump from November 2024 to June 2025, slamming wars. Now he's escalated in Venezuela from measured success by wars we end to airstrikes and leader snatch. Pure hypocrisy has now been exposed. Is this Trump's Biden 2.0? Raw footage explosions and his own words contradict everything.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
No more wars, no more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
Despite Trump's long-standing anti-war rhetoric, U.S. forces launched pre-dawn strikes across Venezuela's capital and surrounding areas. Residents awoke to thunderous explosions and the roar of aircraft overhead. Trump announced that U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, and flew them out of the country.
But we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together, we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny, and we're going to achieve the most incredible future.
And yet, Venezuela was hit with strikes, followed by a claimed capture of its leader.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
However, Venezuela is the opposite headline: strikes first, diplomacy later.
But I'm proud to be the first president in decades who started no new wars. And the reason I started no new wars is they respected the people in this room. It's true.
Now, a fresh military operation in Caracas is being framed worldwide as escalation.
Ay, mamá, huevo. Erga, se metieron los de la USA, papi. Los que tienen 14 años son más grandes que ellos.
But I don't know, did Bush ever end? Do you think Biden ended a war? Biden started wars because he was stupid. But do you think Biden ended any wars? No. I don't know of anybody that ended wars. I ended 8 of them. Now it's going to be 9.
And now, Trump has done exactly what he accused Biden of doing, launching military strikes and escalating conflict, this time in Venezuela. Trump's pitch has been consistent: End wars, avoid new ones, stop endless intervention. But Venezuela has now become the proof of contradiction. Strikes, then a headline capture of a sitting president.
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hi there, good evening. Hope you had a great Sunday. And now it's time to look forward to the coming week. Welcome back to this week's edition of Looking Forward. The show is about stories that are shaping up over the coming days and weeks. News that is developing and would have consequences for your life and mine and impact our choices. Stories that shape India's and world's politics and economics going forward. So let's get going. Tonight's show packs a punch with 5 stories that I've picked that you should look forward to this week. First up, of course, the top trending story of the world, the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro by the United States. What happens next? The streets of Caracas, the capital, were unusually quiet through the day, adding to the mystery behind the ease with which the American commandos of Delta Force evacuated their target, the president and his wife. Let us look at who's in control. That's story number 1. Story number 2 is a big one again. Tomorrow is when the Supreme Court of India is all set to pronounce judgment on multiple petitions of bail in the 2020 Delhi riots cases. All eyes on whether Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam and others, their accomplices, would be out or stay put in Tehran. For some strange reason, or perhaps not so strange, the world is watching India's Supreme Court closely tomorrow. Story number 3 is about an intense week of political realignments that Tamil Nadu is looking forward to. With BJP Master Strategist and Union Home Minister Amit Shah already in Chennai, other parties are making their moves. We go south ahead of the polls there. Up next, we stay in Tamil Nadu as the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court delivers the much-awaited verdict in the Deepam Row, the lamp house atop the Thirupparankundaram hill that separates a temple and a dargah. The Kashi Mathura Ayodhya spin to Tamil Nadu politics just ahead of polls would be interesting. And that's happening this week. And finally, we look at what's happening with Iran. Is Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader, next, given the turbulence that's building up and the attention it has got from Uncle Sam or Uncle Donald? Starting with the headlines first. Captured Venezuelan president being questioned in custody at New York detention center over criminal charges. He faces long-standing federal charges from a 2020 Southern District of New York case, including narco-terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation, conspiracy, possession of machine guns, and destruction of devices, destructive devices, as well as related weapons. The Constitutional Chamber of Venezuela's Supreme Court orders that Vice President Delcy Rodriguez assume the role of acting president of the country in the absence of Nicolas Maduro. China urges the United States to release Maduro. His wife at once asks to stop toppling Venezuelan government. China also condemned the capture, calling it a blatant violation of international law and urged the United States to release Maduro at earliest. Gandhinagar in Gujarat, grappling with the typhoid outbreak. 70 active cases linked to contaminated drinking water. Leaks in the pipeline network have allowed sewage to mix with water, sparking fears of an epidemic and a repeat of Indore. 12 Maoists, including senior leaders Sachin Magdu and Sukka, were neutralized in an encounter with security forces in Sukma of Chhattisgarh on Jan 4. Early in the day, the security forces also recovered automatic weapons, including AK-47 and INSAS rifles from the site. All right, welcome back, friends. In a bold stroke that echoes the audacious foreign policy of a resurgent America under President Trump, the capture of Nicolas Maduro on January 3 marks a pivotal reckoning for Venezuela's long-suffering people and a stark warning to autocrats worldwide. Trump's stewardship of Venezuela's oil riches risks imperial overreach at the same time. The Democrats have decried it as reckless adventurism. But the true test lies ahead. Will this intervention birth democracy or breed insurgency and a civil war, reshaping Latin America's volatile landscape?
¡Venga por mí! ¡Aquí lo espero en Miraflores! ¡No se tarde en llegar, cobarde!
That was Nicolas Maduro, just months ago, throwing down the gauntlet after America slapped a $50 million bounty on his head.
I want to sing it note for note, don't worry.
Defiant and unyielding, he dared them to come. And on January 3rd, 2026, they did. US forces struck Caracas, seized the president and his wife, and flew them to New York.
Actually, the authorities, government, regional government, the mayors, the majority, absolutely all the majors and the government, regional government, is allied of party of Nicolas Maduro. They have a reunion in 7 or 8 o'clock in the night for talk about declarations of Donald Trump and the situation.
President Trump declared that America will steward Venezuela's vast oil reserves until a stable transition.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure.
For millions who fled hunger and repression, this sparks hope. Yet, shadows remain. Loyalists in hiding, potential insurgency, and a world divided in outrage. Key infrastructure secured, political prisoners beginning to walk free. Opposition icons like Maria Machado, the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, and Edmundo Gonzalez call for immediate democratic handover. But the road ahead might not be what the opposition expected.
Well, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within, or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the leader.
For Republicans, this is strength, long delayed and finally delivered.
The Republican Party have predominantly, interpreted Maduro's defense as evidence of his statue as an illegitimate dictator and a narco-terrorist. And definitely, the Republican Party has always said that he poses a direct threat to the United States security through drug trafficking and regional instability. So definitely, his refusal, Maduro's refusal to negotiate or step down was a confirmation of his criminal entanglements and definitely justifying aggressive, U.S. intervention as self-defense rather than unprovoked aggression. So GOP leaders from the Senate to the House and the GOP chairman, they all framed Trump's operation as a necessary execution of a long-standing Department of Justice warrant from the 2020 targeting Maduro's indicted role in narco-terrorism. So the Senate Majority Leader John Thune called it as an important first step to bring Maduro to justice for drug crimes while anticipating further briefing on the administration's counter narco-terrorist strategies.
So first, I would like to say congratulations to President Trump, his administration, and the very brave military that went in with a surgical strike to specific, very important assets of the Venezuelan army, and was able to go in and under the cover of darkness extract Maduro and his wife and bring them ultimately to New York. Now, I also would make this very important point that we are behind him. The majority of Americans are behind this operation. And the reason is because, first of all, we elected President Trump to be a little bit more let's say, forceful on the domestic and foreign relations front, combating terrorism, combating these rogue dictatorial leaders that are around the world, as well as the narco-terrorists. And this has been a very big problem for America in the last few years. And even myself being here in California, we are victims of having uncontrolled drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, and other illicit drugs consistently pouring into our state and even my city here in San Francisco.
Meanwhile, the Democrats echo a different sentiment.
The U.S. invasion of Venezuela, kidnapping Maduro, is a flagrantly illegal, in terms of U.S. law and international law, a flagrantly illegal action that bodes poorly for the future of the planet. Trump made clear that he's doing this because he wants Venezuela's oil. In his national security strategy, he said Latin America is ours. This is the mind of a tyrant, of a sociopath, of somebody who controls nuclear weapons, but has the mind and the restraint and of a 3-year-old and the morality of the jungle. This is a very, very dangerous, barbaric, illegal, unconstitutional action and must be opposed by the entire international community.
The aggression on Venezuela has brought about global scrutiny. Cuba's President Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermudez strongly condemned the U.S. attack on social media, calling it a criminal attack against Venezuela and urging the international community to respond quickly. Meanwhile, Colombian president also reacted to the strikes. He said, and I quote, "The government of Colombia rejects the aggression against the sovereignty of Venezuela and of Latin America." The office of Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, on the other hand, said that she was closely monitoring the situation in Venezuela with an aim to gather information about their fellow citizens in the country. Spain, meanwhile, offered to mediate the crisis. The big question now: would China stop at a strong condemnation, or is there more coming?
From China's point of view, this is the end of whatever it is that the U.S. was preaching. Imagine if any other country were to invade the United States, take the president and the first lady, take them to another country. Would that be considered an act of war? Obviously, yes. So the United States is on thin ice internationally, or I should say it's broken through the ice. From China's point of view, they do not want to get into a direct confrontation with a military nuclear power such as the United States. It would risk the entire world, and this is not what China wants to do. But the rest of the world should be taking notice. The fact that at this point, Donald Trump, Washington, feels that at any provocation, real or not, they can go in and change the regime forcefully. So whether you are India, Russia, small country, if Donald Trump decides that you are on the wrong side of his ideas, for instance, you're buying oil from Russia, that this could not only mean sanctions, it could mean a forceful regime change. So we stand on the precipice. The old order is dead. The question is, will the countries now around the world join together and say enough? Tell Donald Trump in the only language he will listen to, which is economic.
Maduro pivoted hard towards China when the West shut its doors. Oil for loans, loyalty for lifelines.
Gather together, whether you're friends or not, whether your ideologies match, and tell the United States, quite frankly, that there is no room for this kind of action. And that if it persists, the entire world will act as one in terms of sanctioning the United States.
But today, that alliance looks thin. Maduro paid the price of pivoting to China and still found himself out in the cold. Back in Caracas, a power vacuum has come into the picture. But revolutions without order can turn quickly.
The reason why was Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores kidnapped, abducted, a rendition operation carried out? When I saw President Trump's press conference, he talked about narco-terrorism. He talked about how they're involved in drug trafficking. If I remember correctly, in the past, Maduro was termed as the head of the Cartel de Sols, which again has not been proven. It's been denied strenuously by Maduro and the people close to him. But one thing is important, that as far as fentanyl is concerned, Venezuela is a negligible, if not a very negligible supply, if at all. I don't think it is, as far as I know. And as far as cocaine is concerned, again, Venezuela is negligible because it's basically Mexico and Colombia and other countries that supply or are sort of conduits for supply of these banned narcotic substances to the United States. So obviously there is something more than these accusations. As far as trafficking of humans are concerned, the whole of Latin America does that. South America, in the sense that maybe consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously, the government doesn't necessarily need to encourage it, but you remember people trying to immigrate to the United States, and it's not just Latin America, it's people from all over the world, including India, because they see that, or they saw that as a land of opportunity. So that could not be a reason to take out the president of an independent country.
The Security Council now becomes the next battlefield. And for New Delhi, it is a tightrope.
India's position in this particular case, I think one is that very careful watch and eye on what has happened and the developments in Venezuela. Secondly, India will also look at the international ramifications of this, capture or kidnapping of a sitting president of a country. Which is definitely in violation of international norms. America is packaging it as not an attack on a country or a sovereign nation like that. America is portraying it as an action by American law enforcement agencies, the Department of Justice, to bring back into America a criminal, a drug trafficker. That's how America is positioning it.
Maduro had dared the United States to come for him. And they did.
And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually.
Venezuela now stands at history's edge. Potential rebirth through democracy and renewed prosperity, or descent into prolonged turmoil and division. The choices in Washington, Caracas, and world capitals in the coming weeks will determine if this dramatic chapter closes with hope or opens new conflicts for Venezuela.
All right, the world is both amused and not so amused, but of course on its guard at what next. Moving on. As India braces for a landmark Supreme Court hearing on January 5, that's tomorrow, the fate of activists Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam and 5 others hangs in balance in a larger conspiracy case tied to the devastating 2020 Delhi riots. Tomorrow's ruling by Justices Arvind Kumar and N.V. Anjaria will not merely decide bail or jail for the rioters. It will signal whether India prioritizes swift justice in grave terror-linked allegations or risks emboldening those who exploit social divisions, forever shaping the nation's approach to protest, accountability, and unity in a polarized era.
In the heart of India's democracy, where the echoes of protests against citizenship laws still linger, two names had become symbols of a larger battle: Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam. Arrested over 5 years ago under the stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, they stand accused of masterminding the 2020 Delhi riots, a charge they vehemently deny. Tomorrow, 5th of January 2026, the Supreme Court of India will deliver its verdict on their bail pleas, along with those of Gulfisha Fatima, Miran Haider, Shifaur Rahman, Mohammad Salim Khan and Shadab Ahmad. This is not just about 7 individuals. It is about the future of dissent and holding those accountable who were responsible for the death of 53 people.
जहां हम महफूज दिल्ली की खास बात क्या थी कि इंटरनेशनल मीडिया को आने में 5 मिनट लगते हैं, 5 मिनट। वहां अगर ये गोली चलाए तो वो वीडियो पे आ जाएगा। दिल्ली में वैसे भी दिल्ली को ये कश्मीर बना नहीं सकते, आपको भी पता है। इन्हीं की जलालत होगी, हमारी नहीं होगी। अगर ये दिल्ली में गोली चलवाए, आर्मी लगवाए, जलालत किसकी है? मुसलमानों की नहीं, सरकार की जलालत। ये दिल्ली है भाई, ये फ्लाईओवर गिरे जरा, पूरी दुनिया को खबर हो, समझ रहे हैं ना। और तीसरी चीज, भैया लाठी खाने से न डरे। बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। अगर किसी का हाथ टूटा है तो अलग बात है, किसी का पैर टूटा है तो अलग बात है, गर्दन कटेगी, लाठी खाने से न डरे। एयर गैस से किसी को एलर्जी हो सकती है तो भागे, सही बात है। लाठी से एलर्जी ना समझे, लाठी 2-4 तो पड़ेगी, लाठी खाने की कला भी सीख लें, समझ रहे हैं ना। इस तरह कम चोट पड़े, इम्पैक्ट कम हो। केसेस होंगे, हम पे भी एफआईआर होंगे, इसके लिए तो इत्मीनान से होगा। लेकिन ये कामयाबी तभी मिलेगी जब 100 शाहीन बाग जलाना पड़ेगा उसके टेंशन का, नहीं तो आपको पूछने वाला।
Let's rewind to February 2020. Northeast Delhi burned amid clashes triggered by protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act and the proposed National Register of Citizens. The February 2020 violence in northeast Delhi was not a spontaneous outburst. Delhi police investigations, backed by witness statements, digital evidence, and technical data, reveal a premeditated, well-orchestrated conspiracy. Khalid emerges as the architect who floated the idea of Chakka Jam blockades to paralyze the city. He allegedly coordinated secret meetings, directed stockpiling of weapons, knives, stones, acid bottles, and worked through groups like the Delhi Protest Support Group to turn protests into riots. Sharjeel Imam, operating under Khalid's influence, delivered speeches that police say incited division, communal hatred, and rebellion, laying the groundwork for the first wave of unrest.
पहले भी शायद दर्ज कर चुका हूँ 5 लाख लोग हमारे पास हो ऑर्गेनाइज्ड तो हम हिंदुस्तान और नॉर्थ ईस्ट को परमानेंटली कट कर सकते हैं और हम परमानेंटली नहीं तो कम से कम 1 महीने के लिए तो कट कर ही सकते हैं मतलब इतना मवाद डालो पटरियों पर रोड पे कि उनको हटाने में 1 महीना लगे ठीक ही नहीं जाए एयरफोर्स से असम को काटना हमारी जिम्मेदारी है असम और इंडिया कट के अलग हो जाए
Evidence, WhatsApp chats, speeches, and alleged secret meetings.
It's a free country. Let people talk. If somebody is an anti-national, if there is a proof, if there is concrete proof, nobody says don't punish the guilty. But don't try to curtail the talks, the thoughts. Don't try to have just one way of thinking. It's a diverse country, and that is the beauty of India. And the beauty of India is, the idea of India is the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech. You can talk, you can think, you can discuss. And if you curtail it in the name of nationality, in the name of nationalism, in the name of patriotism, India is going to go down.
For over 5 years, more than 1,800 days, these accused have remained in custody, and rightly so. The Delhi High Court, in its September 2025 ruling, found prima facie evidence of their roles, thus denying bails. The police have argued, jail, not bail, is the norm in such grave terror-linked cases.
The national interest comes first. Such terrorists and who are harboring grudge against the nation, hatred against the nation, they should not be released on bail. Ultimately, the principle of law is very clear that the larger interest of the society has to prevail over the interest of particular individuals. So these people, they got a big history, and the background is very clear. It was a premeditated conspiracy that has been repeatedly held by the honorable courts. So now, in such situations, you cannot grant them bail.
Now, Justices Arvind Kumar and N.V. Anjaria hold the key. Their decision comes amid growing international scrutiny. New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani and 8 US lawmakers recently voiced support for Khalid, highlighting concerns over India's human rights record.
This guy, Zohran Mamdani, is a hardcore jihadi. He has become mayor of New York and he's going to mess up that state, I know. So, Mr. Mamdani, we don't appreciate your interference in our judicial process. You look after your own state, your own country, and get rid of the idea that you will Islamize America and that through that you will Islamize the whole world. You have posted this message, you have sent this handwritten letter, if you have written it, only because Umar Khalid is a Muslim. No, sir. In the Indian system of justice, you like it or not, we don't go by a person's religion. We go by the facts of the case. So lay off, Mr. Mamdani.
Question is, why are they so interested? Is it the Tukde Tukde toolkit at work?
As a mayor of New York, we should stay focused on New York issues, where there are a lot of issues, and that's why he was brought in. But meddling into different countries, their internal affairs, I think would not be a very advisable thing for a newly elected mayor who is has very little experience in managing one of the richest cities in the country, not only in the world. It has so many other issues involving immigration, healthcare. We have a basket full of things to take care of, but making statements on internal issues of different countries, including India, in the light of a huge Indian diaspora living here in New York City, and I'm right now in New York City as well, I think it will leave a bitter taste in the mouths of Indians who may have voted for him.
Looking forward, tomorrow's verdict carries profound consequences for India's future.
Tomorrow, it's not going to decide on the merits of the case. It's basically related to the bail provisions only. And in the UAPA case, there is a stringent provision, that is the provision of 43D5, and that's why in the statutes like NDPS, UAPA, some provisions like in NDPS 37 and UAPA 43D, they are stringent. That's why judiciary have a little tilted towards the prosecutions. So tomorrow, the court will decide on the merits of the bail, whether bail should be granted to Umar Khalid or not. They are in the jail from the last 5 years. In the normal course, it is seen in the Motiram case also that bail is the rule, jail is the exception. But when the allegation is related to UAPA, NDPS, then the judiciary have a different viewpoint in granting the bail.
If the Supreme Court upholds the High Court's denial and rejects bail, it sends a powerful signal. India will not tolerate those who incite communal violence and threaten national unity. But if bail is granted, the risks are grave. It could embolden fringe elements to exploit social fault lines again, knowing prolonged detention is no longer assured. Internationally, selective sympathy for the accused, letters from foreign figures might encourage interference, weakening India's resolve, even as some support it strongly.
उमर खालिद और उनके साथियों का कल सुप्रीम कोर्ट फैसला करने वाला है। मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि उनकी कल जमानत हो जाए। ऐसा पहले कभी नहीं हुआ है कि 5-5 साल तक ट्रायल ना होता हो और जमानत भी ना मिलती हो। आज दुनिया भर के अंदर बदनामी हो रही। अमेरिका के सेनेटर्स, लॉ मेकर्स एतराज कर रहे हैं, लेटर लिख रहे हैं। न्यूयॉर्क का मेयर अपनी तवज्जो दिला रहा है, कंसर्न है उसको। इस वाकये से पूरी दुनिया में बदनामी हो रही है।
January 5, 2026. The Supreme Court of India stands at a defining crossroad. This is no ordinary legal matter. It is a reckoning for those who, through calculated words and hidden plans, unleashed chaos that claimed 53 innocent lives, injured hundreds, and scarred the soul of our capital forever.
Right from Delhi to Chennai, the political landscape in Tamil Nadu is witnessing significant shifts, with actor Vijay's Tamilaga Vetri Kadagam exploring alliance with Congress and former Chief Minister O. Pannirselvam's faction. The DMK-Congress alliance is facing challenges, with Congress seeking more seats and power sharing. AIADMK is trying to capitalize on the situation, while BJP's Amit Shah is in Tamil Nadu as we speak, indicating possible realignments this coming week. Here is what is expected in Tamil Nadu politics.
It is going to be a week of realignments in Tamil Nadu politics. And this is what started it all. A claim by DMK's Kanimoy. Allied Congress's data chief Praveen Chakravarti hit back. The Post takes Kanimoy claims to cleaners on Tamil Nadu's debt situation. And even before the row had run its course, came this. A stinker of a post on X from Congress MP S. Jyotimani punching holes into the Grand Old Party's strategy for the Tamil Nadu elections. While the accent was on state leadership, the target was alliance as per observers.
I don't think there's any chance of the India alliance breaking. Remember, the India alliance major partners in Tamil Nadu are the Congress and the left parties. And they have no mood to leave it. They don't want to lose the larger picture in the country. Well, there are many, many small parties who have 0.5% of the vote, 1% of the vote. Whether they go this way or that way will be a last-minute decision. The major alliance partners of the India alliance, of the left parties and the Congress, they won't switch at all. It is in their interest to take forward the India alliance. By breaking it, Congress will suffer and the left parties will suffer. So therefore, there is no danger of that at all.
Chakravarti and Jyothimani posts indicate otherwise, with a section of the Congress believing that partnership with the rising star Vijay's TVK might better their prospects.
See, basically, Congress and TVK are natural ally in terms of secularism, in terms of no stand against communalism. We were natural ally, and I mean, as you said, Rahul and our leader are they are friends actually. So there are a lot of possibilities for Congress and TVK to form an alliance.
DMK is closely watching the developments.
See, whatever people in the TVK might say, because they're looking for alliance partners and they've not gotten a single alliance partner. That is the point here. So every alliance party of the DMK or ADMK, they're trying to poach, but no one is willing to join them. But having said that, DMK and Congress are married and there is no divorce possible. That is the kind of relationship that DMK and Congress share. We've been in alliance together for the last 22 years, maybe except for brief 1 or 2 years in between, 2013 to 14 when there was no alliance.
The other pole of Tamil Nadu politics, AIA-DMK sees opportunity.
The myth that DMK alliance, the India alliance, is formidable and stronger is busted long back. All the ally parties, particularly the Congress, VCK, Communist and MDMK, are trying to retrace their identity and trying to find relevance with the people of Tamil Nadu. The cherry on the icing is Congress, which has now been vertically split in opinion. One section wants to get away from Congress to retrace its identity, and for the benefit and welfare of Congress growth in the state of Tamil Nadu, it has to come out of DMK. That is one section. The other section, who wants to support dynasty politics and be a part in the corrupt practices of DMK, wants to stay with DMK, which means that all is not well in the alliance, and we expect many alliance parties will definitely break away before the elections are due.
Or is it that Congress is bargaining for seats?
DMK has lost its alliance strength completely. Congress today is asking for power in the state. It is not the old DMK under MK Karunanidhi. Now it is a weak, very, very weak DMK under Mr. MK Stalin, who does not have any clue of what is happening around him. Congress is asking for power. They are asking for 3 ministers and about 50 seats. VCK, which has never come to power in the last 25 years, even their cadres are pressurizing Mr. Thirumavalavan and asking them to ask for power. So is the Communist, because none of these 3 people are in power in any state. So they are feeling that this is the only way to get into power in some hook or crook.
If that be the case, DMK is ready and willing to discuss. Even as an Indi split is imagined, former Chief Minister OPS has been fancying his own truck with Vijay.
You see, OPS will go along with whatever the BJP tells him, for the simple reason that while OPS is a powerful man in his districts and southern areas, he requires a national crutch to lean on, and that is the BJP. He cannot go to the DMK for various reasons, having served with Jayalalitha as Chief Minister twice. Therefore, recently Amit Shah, the Home Minister, patched up all these issues. And they said that the BJP will give from its share whatever O.P. Pannirselvam wants. So I think that he will continue with the NDA rather than go with TVK. Because even if the NDA loses in Tamil Nadu, they're still in power in Delhi. If TVK loses, what will happen to Pannirselvam? TVK is a new horse. Very difficult to bet on him. And an old horse like Pannirselvam will be very cautious in such matters.
The analyst is suggesting the BJP might be trying to reach out to Vijay in its own way through operations.
In Tamil Nadu, you see, right now, a very new phenomenon is it's a three-front race. Merely for the last 40 years, there's either been the DMK-led front or the ADMK-led front. But now, with TVK coming, and his popularity is there, he is forming another front of new parties, or whether he's attracting people from the old parties. It is a three-horse race in Tamil Nadu for the first time after a long time. So there is an element of uncertainty. Whose votes will TVK take? That is the new situation in Tamil Nadu. Instead of ADMK and DMK, there is also TVK. So it makes it all the more interesting. And don't forget, TVK has made a very interesting proposition that he will share power in the government with his allies if he forms the government. The DMK and ADMK from 67 have never shared power with their allies. They made them MLAs and MPs, but no ministerships. TVK has offered that. That will also have an impact on the overall election, what the other parties will do. So it will become a very interesting three-front race with new elements thrown in, a new actor, a new front.
A bunch of meetings are planned this week between Congress and DMK, between TVK and Congress, between OPS and TVK. And all these alignments happen in the same week that BJP's master strategist Amit Shah is in Tamil Nadu. A week of political realignments is happening down under.
One day! On the eve of a pivotal hearing on January 7, that's Wednesday, at the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court, the centuries-old Thirupparankundaram Hill stands as a flashpoint in Tamil Nadu's fraught politico-religious landscape. As a two-judge bench weighs appeals, cross-claims and the delicate balance of heritage, faith and public peace, Wednesday's verdict could either reaffirm judicial authority in protecting religious practices or deepen divisions in a shared sacred space, testing whether Tamil Nadu's secular ethos can withstand politicized fault lines reminiscent of Ayodhya, Kashi or Mathura.
It is Judgment Day on Wednesday, January 7th, on the Deepam lamp lighting row at the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court. At the heart of the matter, a centuries-old conflict. Claims of Hindu devotees over a structure to light lamps at the temple that has stood for 1300 years. Against Muslim devotees of a dargah that came up about 700 years ago. Lying dormant for most of the last 50 years, the row flared up on December 1st when a single judge bench of Justice G.R. Swaminathan ruled in favor of Hindu devotees, giving them right to light up the Deepam. The DMK government quickly intervened to deny the order, even risking contempt of court on grounds of law and order.
As far as the Thirupparankundaram row is concerned, the bench of the courts will be listening to the contempt petition tomorrow, and we are expecting them to come very heavily on the state government for not adhering to the orders of the High Court. So even after a very clear verdict has been pronounced, just for the sake of political gains, the DMK has refrained from respecting the court's orders. Apart from all the faiths and beliefs involved, the DMK is now even willing to not respect the courts and the orders pronounced by the courts just for the sake of appeasement and just for its petty politics of vote. So this is highly condemnable, and we are looking forward to seeing the court come down heavily on the DMK.
Appeals and cross-appeals got immediately filed. The Tamil Nadu government said that there was no archaeological evidence that the pillar was meant for lighting of lamps. The Waqf board intervened to say that the area where the lamp post stands belongs to the dargah. The Madurai collector filed plea that the Swaminathan order had no basis on ground, that the Deepathun was a figment of Hindu imagination. The Devasom board, custodian of the temple, saying temple administration could not be compelled by the court. Another government wing, the Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowments Department, even suggested there is no Deepathun, that the structure might be a Jain religious place. Devotees expressed anger on the ground. Police claimed before the court that enforcing the single judge's order might lead to communal disturbance. BJP picked up the issue aggressively, showing it as a continuation of Sanatan hate of the ruling DMK.
Can you deny the existence of Ramanathaswaram? Can you deny the existence of Minakshima, Lord Shiva from Tamil Nadu? Can you remove the cultural ethos of Tamil language and Tamil literature? Can you remove Tirukarur from the society? Those who are propagating this kind of theory, they are fool, they are misunderstood. Let Lord Shiva forgive them.
The contours of the Tamil Nadu case are similar to the Ayodhya, Kashi, Mathura temple disputes. It is over to Wednesday, January 7th, as the devotees wait to hear from the two-judge bench of the Madras High Court at Madurai whether or not they would get to light the lamp.
Moving on to the last one, Iran has of late borne witness to its economy plummeting to its lowest ever and a socio-political upheaval consequent of that economic turbulence. And if those internal pressures were not bad enough, Iran now stands susceptible to possible international interference at the hands of the United States and Israel, perhaps. All that's left to be seen is how Tehran wades through these difficult waters. Here's looking back to everything we know so far and looking forward to whether Iran is going to be the next Venezuela.
What began as a strike by merchants in Tehran has quickly escalated into nationwide protests and deadly clashes with security forces across Iran. Why, you may ask?
Financial and cost of living protests in Iran have transformed into explicit anti-regime demonstrations due to a long simmering and deepening economic crisis. There is widespread public anger over government corruption and mismanagement, and a belief that the system is incapable of reform. Now, the immediate trigger for the current protests was the collapse of the national currency, the Riyal.
It was a sudden nosedive in the value of Iran's currency. The final blow to a population growing tired of being patient under an ailing economy. Over the days, the intensity of the protests grew, soon leading up to being one of the largest protest movements that the country has seen in years. And while it would not be the first of protests seen since the inception of the Islamic Republic, this latest round has decidedly come at a difficult time for the regime, amid a series of economic damages from losing a war with Israel and so on.
I do not think Iran is going to be defeated very easily. When the US attacked Iran ostensibly to bomb its nuclear facilities, that didn't work. Iran was smarter. It had already moved the 400 odd kilos of enriched uranium elsewhere. and its centrifuges were largely untouched. When Israel tried to attack Iran, its planes went near Iran and all the radars were locked, and they had to immediately run back. And when Iran decided to attack Israel, they touched up, and nobody talks about it, none of the mainstream media talks about it. They destroyed an airport called Nevatim, which is the largest airport and the most secure airport in the Middle East.
And if this internal tension was not bad enough, Iran is also now susceptible to external pressure and violence. There is a lot of concern in Iran, after all, that the United States or Israel will use force.
First attack, Nevatim was destroyed. The second attack, Tel Aviv was attacked and its control center destroyed. And Israel has realized that Iran can evade every iron dome that Israel has, and Iran can destroy it. So it wants America to go in again. And America is controlled by Israel. So if Iran is defeated, expect Iran to retaliate. The Hormuz Strait will be blocked. All oil to the world is blocked. And it will start attacking every American base in the Middle East. The Middle East will be up in fire. It's been supported by China and Russia.
This, as US President Donald Trump, in a Truth Social post on Friday, said that the United States could consider some form of intervention if Iran were to continue violent killing of peaceful protesters. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has followed suit.
Say to the entire world, never again. Never again. Never. Never again was last year, in which we demonstrated to the would-be destroyers of Israel, we shall destroy you. You shall not destroy us. Never again is next year, and never again is forever. Because we have changed Jewish history. With the establishment of the sovereign Jewish state and the sovereign Jewish army and our defense arms, we are able to do something that Jews for centuries in the diaspora could not do.
Iran's government has said it was listening to the voice of people and was seeking to restore calm.
تکرار میکنم این موضوع رو که شنیدن صدای مردم، حتی صدای اعتراض مردم، حتی صدای اعتراض تند مردم وظیفه دولت هست. همه تلاش خودمون رو میکنیم با جریان گفتگویی که ایجاد شده و با اقدامات اصلاحی که داره صورت میگیره بتونیم آرامش رو برگردانیم و همچنان که آقای رئیس جمهور هم دستور دادن که گفتگوی شکل بگیره و تلاش‌هایی برای بازگرداندن ثبات و آرامش به هم فضای جامعه و هم اقتصاد انشاءالله شاهدش باشیم.
All this seems aimed at fending off American pressure.
ما در جنگ تمام عیار، یعنی اینا الان بیشترین امیدشون برای اینه که ما رو از نظر اقتصادی زمین بزنن. با هواپیما و با موشک و با نمیدونم بمباران که میگه مملکتی رو نمیشه تسخیر کرد، باید بیان زمین و در زمین با این مردم میخوان برخورد کنن که امکان نداره اگر ما مصمم باشیم و برای ایرانمان و برای سربلندی کشورمون تلاش بکنیم و با هم حرکت بکنیم، اونا نمیتونن و نخواهند تونست ایران ما رو به زانو در بیارن.
A worried supreme leader, particularly after the Venezuela developments, Ayatollah Khamenei is also trying to clamp down on the situation.
این گران شدن قیمت ارز خارجی، بالا رفتن بی حساب قیمت ارز خارجی و عدم ثبات و هی بره بالا بیاد پایین که کاسب ندونه تکلیفش چیه، این طبیعی نیست، این کار دشمنه. آدم تهدید شده موضوع دشمن پشت سر بازاری ها بایستن و شعار ضد اسلام و ضد ایران و ضد جمهوری اسلامی بدن. این مهمه. ما با معترض حرف میزنیم، باید حرف بزنن مسئولین با معترض، اما با اغتشاشگر حرف زدن فایده ای نداره. اغتشاشگر رو باید به جای خودش نشان. در مقابل دشمن کوتاه نمیاییم. ما با اتکال به خدای متعال، با اتکال به خدای متعال و با اطمینان به همراهی مردم انشاءالله به توفیق الهی دشمن رو به زانو در خواهیم آورد.
As for how effective is the regime's strategy of blaming foreign interference while using force to suppress domestic dissent?
Now, the Iranian regime's strategy of blaming foreign interference while using force to suppress domestic dissent has mixed effectiveness. It secures short-term stability internally, but it loses credibility among citizens and also among other nations. By framing protests as a foreign-backed security threat, the regime has been justifying a harsh, coercive response, including violence, mass arrests, and internet shutdowns.
This urge to quell protests and establish some semblance of peace has gained an element of urgency, as the American operation in Caracas to capture Maduro panned out just a day after Trump's warning on Iran. Question is, would the Iranian regime succeed in quelling the protests, or would Uncle Sam move in to take charge?
Powered by Century Ply Club Prime. रहो बेफिकर.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद ये ही तो है इसकी खास बात. वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरी राजा.
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल. ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े. क्या निराला MDH मसाला.
Pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
When we look out at the world, Samir, we look for partners. We don't look for preachers. Engaging America has become more complicated. You all know why. Having a neighbor that is an epicenter of global terrorism.
India in 2025 saw many international diplomatic moments of India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, who literally turned international politics and the diplomacy that comes with it into an art of savage roasts. From jeering comments on Pakistan to calling out Trump and Western hypocrisy, here are the top roast moments of the year 2025, where Jaishankar served cold but harsh truths month by month.
All big countries are unique to an extent, but
Powered by Century Ply Club Prime. रहो बेफिकर.
Pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल ये रंग दे ये खुशबू दे ये तीखा ये कम पड़े क्या निराला MDH मसाला प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला
4 3 S200 motors plus 20 seconds. Lift off normal. L40 stages are ignited. Plus 5 seconds.
And here are the top headlines that we're tracking. This Sunday evening, captured Venezuelan president being questioned in custody at New York detention center over criminal charges. Protests have erupted against United States action against Venezuela. Demonstrators now demand release of Maduro and his wife. China urges United States to release Maduro. His wife at once asked to... Bangladesh Cricket Board rattled by India's decision to oust player Mustafizur asks the ICC to shift the matches to Sri Lanka instead. 12 Maoists neutralized in encounter with security forces in Sukma. Arms and ammunition have been seized. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicolas Maduro is now on American soil, and from here on, even the slightest developments related to his trial will be closely watched globally. This following United States strike, Maduro and his wife were brought to United States. Here's a report on the initial images of Maduro, who was brought to New York.
Blindfolded, carrying a bottle of water in his hands, this is the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, now in US custody.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
US President Donald Trump himself shared the image of Nicolas Maduro, captured en route to US onboard American warship. Handcuffed and surrounded, these were the initial visuals of Maduro when he landed on the American soil. Amid high, intensive security, he was brought to US onboard warship USS Iwo Jima. Nicolas Maduro is now kept in a New York detention center as he awaits trial. Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores were captured following a massive US strike on Venezuela. The duo, along with Venezuela, now looks forward to uncertainty as they will now be put to trial on charges of narco-terror. US strikes on Saturday were another watershed for the American continent, a dramatic upturn of events watched closely by global diplomatic circles.
And after the capture of United States on Venezuela and taking the president and his wife in custody, the country's future is now being shaped far beyond its borders. With Trump administration openly asserting control over the transition process, global diplomacy is in motion and competing power centers emerging at home. The question is no longer on what happened, but what awaits Venezuela next.
Venezuela has entered an uncharted territory. For the first time in decades, the country's political future is being directly influenced by external power, marking a dramatic shift in how Venezuela may be governed in the months ahead. US President Donald Trump has announced that Washington will administer Venezuela during a transition period.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about.
The US says the objective is clear: prevent chaos and safeguard energy assets. Critics warn this approach risks being seen as external control rather than international support. A number of nations around the world have condemned the use of force against a sovereign country and its president. The international response is now accelerating. An emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council is scheduled for tomorrow, where the legality, scope, and duration of US involvement will come under sharp scrutiny. Inside Venezuela, authority remains contested. The establishment has appointed Vice President Delcy Rodriguez as the interim president, rejecting US stewardship and asserting domestic constitutional continuity. Amid the churn, the attention is also firmly on opposition leader and Nobel laureate Maria Corina Machado. Seen by many as a unifying democratic figure, her stance on US involvement and her next moves could shape elections, negotiations, and national reconciliation. The key question now: can a US-led transition produce stability without triggering nationalist backlash? And can Venezuelan political forces coalesce around a roadmap that leads to elections?
The political party of Maduro continues to be in power, the military remains in power, and the military remains supportive of the Maduro regime. So a regime change which America wanted has not yet happened, but in the coming days it could happen that people in Venezuela come out in the streets protesting, maybe celebrating the downfall of Maduro. There would be definitely a period of extreme turmoil in Venezuela in the coming days and weeks.
What happens next will ripple across Latin America, affecting migration, oil markets, and regional power dynamics, while also redefining how global powers intervene in failing states. For millions of Venezuelans, this moment carries cautious hope. Whether it becomes a turning point towards recovery or another chapter of uncertainty will be decided in the days and weeks ahead.
The United States launched military strikes on Venezuela yesterday, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and triggering global shockwaves. Washington says the operation was driven by drug trafficking, migration, and security concerns. Critics, however, point to oil and geopolitics. We explain why exactly the United States attacked Venezuela.
US forces air and ground operations in and around Caracas. Capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro marked the most dramatic US intervention in Latin America in decades. The White House said the action was aimed at national security. President Donald Trump accused the Maduro government of turning Venezuela into a narco state that enabled drug trafficking networks, threatening American lives.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States.
However, here is the key point. Drug trafficking into the US originates from multiple Latin American countries, including Mexico, Colombia, and parts of Central America. So why did Venezuela alone face direct military action? US officials say Venezuela stood apart because of direct allegations against the state itself. Washington argues that Venezuelan leaders were actively protecting traffickers, shielding criminal networks, and repeatedly defying US indictments, elevating the issue from drug enforcement to a national security threat. However, oil is another critical dimension. Venezuela holds the largest proven crude oil reserves in the world, a resource largely underutilized due to sanctions and mismanagement and years of economic collapse.
Venezuela holds the world's largest oil reserves, known to be about 300 billion barrels, and it's a strategic unfolding of events which we have to watch in the coming days. Russia and China are geographically very far. Russia has been entrenched with its own war with Ukraine, and China has openly not come in support of Venezuela.
Venezuela sits on an oil giant, reserves of 300 billion barrels, but one in deep decline, current output being a fraction of the total capacity. US officials argue that stabilizing Venezuela could help restore oil production and reduce global supply pressures. Critics, however, countered that this blurs the line between security intervention and strategic resource interests. President Trump has been explicit about the oil angle.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money.
Washington maintains that existing indictments and criminal charges against Maduro provided grounds for action. International law experts, however, question whether criminal warrants alone justify cross-border military force. In Washington, opinion is divided. Supporters call it a decisive action against organized crime, while critics question the absence of congressional authorization. Inside Venezuela, pro-Maduro groups denounce the strikes as an illegal invasion. Globally, reactions have been mixed, with some governments condemning the action outright, others urging restraint. With the US shifting from sanctions and pressure to direct intervention, key questions remain. Will this intervention curb drug trafficking, stabilize Venezuela, and restore democratic governance? Or trigger prolonged instability and backlash across Latin America? And also, how will this reshape control, ownership, and access to Venezuela's crude reserves?
United States President Donald Trump on Saturday announced the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, a move that was possibly brewing from long inside the closed corridors, marking another watershed moment in the history of two American continents. The move is also being opposed internally. Here's a report on the dissenting voices against strikes on Venezuela.
At my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II.
Donald Trump on Saturday announced a successful military strike and the capture of the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro. And while Trump pats his back for the move, it is being met with the protests inside the US itself. Venezuelan President Maduro will be put to trial in the Southern District of New York. But New York is also where protests were held at the Times Square against the US military strikes on Venezuela. Protesters also took to streets in Washington, D.C.
I believe that military interventions are inherently dangerous, and Trump lies and the State Department lies. They lie in their reports on Venezuela. And I think it's to impose our will like this, it's cowardly, and it's disrespectful, and it's dangerous.
This invasion of Venezuela has everything to do with trying to distract us from him being in the Epstein file and the crappy state of our economy and the rising healthcare costs.
The US strikes on Venezuela have reportedly led to 40 casualties, with Venezuelan officials as well as civilians dead in the operation. The protests at Times Square demanded investment in jobs and education, not in war. Recently sworn in New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani also took to social media condemning the US action. Mamdani called the attack unilateral and an act of war that violates international and federal law. The protesters in Washington, D.C. echoed the sentiment as well.
I just stand against U.S. imperialism altogether. U.S. imperialism, they want oil. Like the U.S. wants oil, they want to help their corporate billionaires. Bombing is just their means to building power like that, you know, to taking control. So again, I'm against it.
Former Vice President of US and Democrat Kamala Harris criticized the Trump's move, calling the strikes unwise and unlawful. Kamala Harris said that the president is putting American troops at risk and that this move isn't for American people. It's about oil and Trump playing the regional strongman. With discontent brewing from within and the United Nations Security Council meet on Monday, much is expected to unfold. Trump, on the other hand, treads offensive.
And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave.
Ladies and gentlemen, Republic is reporting exclusively from Venezuela and getting you all the updates. Our senior journalist Lenin sent us this report from Maracaibo state in Venezuela right after the Maduro was captured by the United States. What lies next is here in this report.
Here in Venezuela, specifically in Maracaibo, occidental part of Venezuela, here we feel a tense calm because since we know about helicopters flying over Caracas and bombed 7 different parts of the capital city. Here in Maracaibo, it's the second city, the most important here in Venezuela. The people go out of your house and buy medicines, food, gasoline, even in some gas stations. In some gas stations, we see so many vehicles in file waiting for his turn. I can talk about the situation is in the military bases here in Maracaibo. All the bases in this part of Venezuela have a reinforcement of the custody and the access vehicle and access for that bases are closed. Actually, the authorities, government, regional government, the mayors, the majority, absolutely all the mayors and the government, regional government, is allied of party of Nicolas Maduro. They have a reunion in 7 or 8 o'clock in the night for talk about declarations of Donald Trump and the situation, the next situation we can confront, because Donald Trump talked about a second wave to attacks here in Venezuela, and that situation generates so many concern in the people, because in the first attack, we know about persons that died and the consequence of the launch of the bombs in so many people, so many areas of Caracas. We are staying here in this part of Venezuela, alert, very expectant about so many things can happen, because after declaration of Donald Trump, we don't know with certain what can happen here in this part of Venezuela. This is the situation here in Maracaibo, Estado Zulia. I can send you to this contact. Greetings.
The fallout of massive United States strikes on Venezuela is now being felt far beyond the blast zones in several areas. Fear and uncertainty are driving people to the streets. Long queues, empty roads, and tightened security paint a picture of a city bracing for what may come next, as Washington hints at further action. Insights straight away from Venezuela on your screens.
The aftermath of massive US strikes and apprehended leadership has pushed the Venezuela into deep uncertainty.
Since we know about helicopters flying over Caracas and bombed 7 different parts of the capital city, here in Maracaibo, it's the second city, the most important here in Venezuela. The people go out of your house and buy medicines, food, gasoline.
In Maracaibo, panic buying has begun. Gas stations across the city are overcrowded. Large stretches of the city remain quiet as fear grips daily movement. Security has been tightened across the region.
Outside of the capital Caracas, like here in the western city of Mérida, life is generally calm. As you can see, the square behind me is largely empty. Most Venezuelans are currently in their homes or glued to social media to find out what will happen after the illegal US bombing of the capital Caracas in the early hours of this morning.
The regional government is set to hold a meeting concerning situation ahead.
These are the people who will now be looking at these developments in Caracas, and maybe while condemning the attacks by the US government against Venezuelan sovereignty, against international law, they will also be looking with a little bit of hope to see if this brings the sort of changes that they wish to see for a better Venezuela.
Concerns have intensified after Trump hinted at a possible second wave of attacks on Venezuela. The fear is rooted in what residents have already witnessed. Back in Maracaibo, uncertainty dominates. For many, the question remains, what does tomorrow look like?
Trump's anti-war promises have now completely crumbled. Despite vowing no new wars and to end wars, United States forces launched pre-dawn strikes on Caracas, capturing Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and wife Sila Force. Watch this soundbites of Trump from November 2024 to June 2025, slamming wars. Now he's escalated in Venezuela from measured success by wars we end to airstrikes and leader snatch. Pure hypocrisy has now been exposed. Is this Trump's Biden 2.0? Raw footage explosions and his own words contradict everything.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. No more wars, no more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
Despite Trump's long-standing anti-war rhetoric, U.S. forces launched pre-dawn strikes across Venezuela's capital and surrounding areas. Residents awoke to thunderous explosions and the roar of aircraft overhead. Trump announced that U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, and flew them out of the country.
But we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together, we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future.
And yet, Venezuela was hit with strikes, followed by acclaimed capture of its leader.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
However, Venezuela is the opposite headline: strikes first, diplomacy later.
But I'm proud to be the first president in decades who started no new wars. And the reason I started no new wars is they respected the people in this room. It's true.
Now, a fresh military operation in Caracas is being framed worldwide as escalation.
Ay, mamá, huevo. Erga, se metieron los de la USA, papi. Los que tienen 14 años son más grandes que pequeños. But I don't know, did Bush ever end? Do you think Biden ended a war? Biden started wars because he was stupid. But do you think Biden ended any wars? No. I don't know of anybody that ended wars. I ended 8 of them. Now it's going to be 9.
And now, Trump has done exactly what he accused Biden of doing, launching military strikes and escalating conflict, this time in Venezuela. Trump's pitch has been consistent: end wars, avoid new ones, stop endless intervention. But Venezuela has now become the proof of contradiction: strikes, then a headline capture of a sitting president.
MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल, ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े, क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
मेरी चिमनी टूट जाएगी। What are you doing?
रानी, इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता, उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ।
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा, आर प्योर मसाला।
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
When we look out at the world, Samir, we look for partners. We don't look for preachers. Engaging America has become more complicated. You all know why. Having a neighbor that is an epicenter of global terrorism.
India in 2025 saw many international diplomatic moments of India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, who literally turned international politics and the diplomacy that comes with it into an art of savage roasts. from jeering comments on Pakistan to calling out Trump and Western hypocrisy. Here are the top roast moments of the year 2025, where Jaishankar served cold but harsh truths month by month.
All big countries are unique to an extent, but
Ladies and gentlemen, tracking some other stories from across the country in Bharat in 1 minute. The world's largest shivling has now reached Gopalganj in Bihar from Tamil Nadu. It is now on its way to the Virat Ramayan temple in Motihari and has drawn many devotees. A 50-year-old man identified as Parvinder Singh has committed suicide after jumping from the Le Méridien Hotel in Delhi. The Delhi police and FSL are present on site as the investigations are underway. People in large numbers protesting in Dehradun demanding justice for the murder of Ankita Bhandari in 2022.
Our pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
5, 4, 3.
S200 motors.
Plus 20 seconds.
Lift off normal.
L40 stages are ignited. Plus 5 seconds. Plus 20 seconds. First stage performance normal. L40 stages thrust cut off. Plus 5 seconds. Auto tracking. PT driver tracking.
PSLV 661 का सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन प्रथम प्रमोचन मंच से अपने उद्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर अपना सफर जारी कर चुका है.
Performance normal.
There's a magnificent
2, 1.
Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. This week, 4 quick ones. 1 on foreign policy and 3 domestic, connected with civic governance, but of national importance nevertheless. Let's get going.
两岸同胞血浓于水。祖国统一的历史大势不可阻挡。
Could China take over Taiwan in 2026, like this year? You just heard Chinese President Xi Jinping underscoring his and his country's national resolve for reunification of Taiwan. As New Year resolutions go, this was a menacing one, at least for the citizens of Taiwan. This was Chinese President Xi Jinping is stating in no uncertain terms that 2026 could be the year China goes for the kill and take over Taiwan. There are reasons to believe so. The build-up has been real and visible for the last couple of years, but more so second half of 2025. Excise Justice Mission capped the Chinese mind games and military maneuvers across the Taiwan Straits and beyond this week. This was the 6th largest scale set since 2022. But way more intense, with zones larger and drills explicitly framed as determining external interference. code for the United States and its allies. Picture this: Chinese warships forming a chokehold around the island, submarines lurking below, amphibious landing craft practicing beach assaults, and swarms of J-20 stealth fighters dominating the skies. It felt like a dress rehearsal for the D-Day. Xi made his address to coincide with Taiwan's National Day this Sunday to sound more like a warning. Taiwan's defense minister has said that the cross-straits relations are at their worst in the last 40 years. Early in the year after Taiwan's presidential inauguration, China launched Joint Sword 2025, a massive operation that blocked key sea lanes and practiced long-duration blockades. By summer, they escalated to live-fire amphibious drills on nearby islands, complete with hovercraft disgorging troops and helicopters airlifting commandos. Parallel to Xi hardening his stance, we have seen the PLA's modernization hit warp speed. More Type 075 amphibious assault ships, DF-17 or Dongfang-17 hypersonic gliders and drone swarms capable of overwhelming Taiwan's defenses. China's military edge is undeniable. Taiwan's about 200,000 troops face a PLA juggernaut of 2 million, backed by the world's largest navy of over 370 ships and air force. A blockade could starve Taiwan's 23 million people in just weeks. 90% of its energy imports come by sea, through the same sea lanes. War games by the CSIS and RAND suggest China could take the island in 3 to 6 weeks' time, though at horrific cost. Tens of thousands dead perhaps, and economy shattered. So, with a war machine in place, exercises done and dusted, will this rehearsal become the real show? Maybe, we don't know. But more likely, China would test patience, not just of the United States, but with the rest of the world. 2025's exercises have proved that China can sustain pressure without firing first. Taiwan accounts for 60% of world's semiconductor supplies. There's already diversification of those supply chains happening. Remember, Trump campaign, which surprisingly then, and not so surprisingly now, targeted Taiwan instead of China. His jabs at Taiwan is stealing chip business. Remember in 2024, the just-released National Security Strategy paper of the United States, which we focused on in the last episode of the show, makes it clear that America is willing to look the other way in case China gets up close with Taiwan. Of course, true to Trump's style of deal-making, for a price. The NSS outlines sanctions packages, AUKUS submarine boosts, and Quad exercises, but no explicit boots on Taiwan pledge. It literally leaves Taiwan to fend for itself. Well, not just Taiwan, the Eastern Hemisphere, so to say, with all the talk of burden sharing in NSS. Because the NSS, as elaborated by US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, sees the world into two halves. One, an arc of American influence, the other, a Chinese sphere. No rewards for guessing in which half Taiwan and Japan lie. Critics call this abandonment. Trump's mega supporters, realism. Taiwan is left relying on its own defenses, of course bolstered by $20 billion worth of US arms, but without the old unspoken guarantee. Europe, too distracted by Ukraine. Japan might join defensively, and that's why we have seen Beijing more offensive of late vis-à-vis Tokyo than Taipei. Now, what about India? In a 2026 Taiwan takeover, New Delhi's position would likely blend caution with quiet alignment against China. There's deep mistrust that keeps surfacing despite the recent attempts at thaw, like it happened in the case of Arunachal Pradesh mentioned. A Taiwan war would stretch PLA resources, potentially easing Himalayan pressure. Maybe India could do something about POK in that period. So we might cheer silently. Publicly, expect concern over unilateral changes to status quo statements from Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister. India backing on UN clause and freedom of navigation. India has joined US-led drills like Malabar. We have sold BrahMos missiles to Indonesia and Philippines. And we eye Taiwan for semiconductors till we start building our own. But of course, no direct intervention. India's military essentially remains primed for Op Sindoor 2.0 against Pakistan. Quad partner, yes, but Prime Minister Modi prioritizes a strategic autonomy. The bottom line is, India opposes and would oppose Chinese hegemony, but won't bleed for Taiwan. So is 2026 the year? What are the odds? According to a Guardian report, they sit at about 20 to 30% in 2026, up from 10% in 2025. China's window narrows. Xi's 2035 modernization goals demand action soon, before the United States rearms with 8 carriers by 2030 or closes the gap. But deterrence holds if costs look unbearable. A blockade tests that first, forcing the world to choose, fight or fold. Taiwan's fate isn't sealed. Taipei responded with its own nighttime combat drills and river blockades. But it's clear, even in the worst of times, the Chinese war machine would easily prevail. President Lai Ching-te's New Year's vow to defend sovereignty is brave. But polls show most Taiwanese want status quo, not war. 2026 could be the year the Taiwan powder keg explodes, built on 2025's intense drills and a US shift towards isolationism. Moving to the next one. A landmark political development panned out in Kerala this week. For the first time in the state's history, the BJP has its mayor in Thiruvananthapuram. Party veteran V.V. Rajesh took oath with G.S. Asha Nath as his deputy. Whether it's just a jinx broken or a long-term trend, let's check out. A traditional left bastion, remember the state gave India's first democratically elected communist government back in the 1950s. It's been a bipolar polity between the CPI-led LDF and the Congress-led UDF since. That entrenched bipolarity was broken this week. A 45 years power run of the left was broken with the BJP coming to power in Thiruvananthapuram Municipal Corporation. The party also won 26 panchayats and made further inroads in urban local bodies like Palakkad, emerging as a competitive third front in pockets of Kerala, if not the entire state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was effusive in his congratulatory message to the mayor, calling it historic, epoch-making, to be written in golden letters so far as the BJP is concerned. To understand where it is coming from, just go back to 1987 when the BJP won the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation for the first time and within a decade came to power in Gujarat. A young Narendra Modi was the campaign in charge then. The rise has been gradual. From a vote share of little over 10% in 2016, it climbed to 11.3% in 2021 and then to 15.64% in 2024 general elections. After fiddling for decades, the party won its sole MLA in 2016 when O. Rajgopal got elected from Nemom. But since then has drawn a blank insofar as the state assembly is concerned. The 2024 general elections saw Malayalam star Suresh Gopi win from Thrissur, and so the Thiruvananthapuram win can be seen as a continuity. It is the only district where the party has crossed the 20% vote share mark. There are reasons to believe this could be a more enduring shift in Kerala politics. As Prime Minister said in his letter to Rajesh, people can now clearly see the fixed match between the LDF and the UDF, in which they are friends at the center and have a friendly contest in Kerala. The state has characterized contrasts like the most literate state in the country with a culture of political violence that can put even Hindi heartland states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar to shame. Records suggest over 500 instances of murder across the state connected with politics in the last 25 years alone. One district, that of Kannur in north, which also has Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan's seat, Tharmadom, has reported over 300 political killings since 1969. Development pitch, the recent opening of the Visayan Jam port, which saw jousting between all political parties, including the Congress and the left, the possibility of a maritime theatre command coming up in the state capital, a defense manufacturing corridor, and a metro for the Thiruvananthapuram urban agglomeration might have helped the BJP create a buzz around itself. Interestingly, it was the left that was traditionally seen as the Hindu party in the state, despite all the RSS activism, as the Congress cornered minority, largely Muslim sentiment. This has seen the BJP pivot to the Hindu and the Christian vote, with Prime Minister's personal push, from being seen at Christmas prayers in Delhi to sending a delegation to the Vatican during Pope's anointment, all made of Kerala BJP leaders. And there seems to be a plan and some bench strength. Rajesh was not the first choice to be mayor. The plan was to have Kerala's first woman IPS officer R. Srilekha take the charge, only to be jettisoned as the deputy mayor post had to go to a woman as per reservation roster. Kerala is not Gujarat, and the BJP knows that. The state's social fabric, with its strong leftist leanings and high literacy, presents unique challenges. Yet the breach of the Thiruvananthapuram Marxist fortress is a psychological victory. Will this change translate into assembly seats in 2026, just April or May? That remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, Kerala politics will never be the same again. The rise of the BJP in Thiruvananthapuram is not just a local story, it is a chapter in the evolving narrative of Indian democracy, where even the most entrenched bastions can fall when the winds of change blow strong. Maybe it applies to BJP also in some states. Coming as it does, just ahead of the assembly elections this year, the BJP seems gung-ho about making further inroads. The average vote share of 17% is 2 percentage points above 2021 assembly results and shows scalability in about 34 seats. There are constituencies like Nemom where BJP emerged the single largest party, prompting the state president Rajiv Chandrasekhar to suggest that he might contest from there. There are gaps for sure. As John Brittas of the CPI pointed out, the BJP's vote share has come down from the 2024 general elections mark, though of course higher than 2021. The argument is that in some pockets, the Congress vote shifted to the BJP, even if that is a consolation. For the left, the BJP is not complaining. The reason I thought of looking at this development is the curious political geography of Kerala. With its strong left inclination, it's voted communist since the time of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. In fact, so strongly that Nehru himself dismissed the first democratically elected communist government, that of EMS Namboodiripad, in 1959, only 2 years into its term. Just last year, there was a book called Spying in South Asia by King's College, London-based academic Paul McGarr, in which he suggested, based on some recently declassified MI5 and MI6 documents, that dismissal of the Namboodiripad government was a CIA operation. In times that we have been discussing the harmful impact of duopolies in the corporate world, from Indigo, Air India to Airtel Jio, in the political space at least, the left and the UDF duopoly stands broken in Kerala democratically. And when it's mayors, Mumbai had its own story this week. Let's go to the next one.
हमारा तो ये उम्मीद है कि एक दिन मुंबई की मेयर हमारी हिजाब पहनने वाली महिला बहन भी बनेगी इंशाल्लाह। बन सकते थे कि पहले भी मुसलमान लोग बने। भारत के प्रेसिडेंट बन चुके हैं एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम आजाद जी, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट रह चुके हामिद साहब, कितने सारे गवर्नर हैं जो बने हैं मुसलमान। मगर ये बोलना कि नहीं, ये बोलने वाला ही बनेगा, ये बिल्कुल असंवैधानिक है। ऐसा नहीं, जनता जनार्दन है।
एमआईएम के नेताओं को अपनी पार्टी पाकिस्तान में लेके जानी पड़ेगी, इस्लामाबाद में लेके जानी पड़ेगी, कराची में लेके जानी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि ये हमारे भारत देश में, ये हमारे मुंबई में, जिसका डीएनए हमेशा हिंदुत्व का रहा है, उस हमारे मुंबई में इसकी पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं है.
This jaw happened between Varis Pathan of the AIMIM and Nitish Rane, cabinet minister from the BJP in Maharashtra. This is election time. Mumbaikars would vote to choose their city fathers, including a mayor, for the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation or BMC on January 16. Elections call for galvanizing constituencies. Mobilization calls for polarization. So that explains comments from both the sides. And since Varis Pathan has started this, why not a Muslim mayor? Why not? You know why some secular politicians of India wear skull caps and hold iftars? Because they want to meld with their electorate. They want to be seen as one with those they represent, even if for optics, even if this is pseudo-secularism. So if Varis Pathan fancies a Muslim mayor, he or she be better ready to bow down to Lal Baghcha Raja. The mayor would not represent all the Mumbaikars if Siddhi Vinayak is not seen as the presiding deity of the city. With Christmas at the Mahim church thrown in, the same where Amitabh Bachchan played the role of Antony in the Bollywood flick Amar Akbar Antony. I think Varis gets the drift. You can't be a Wahhabi radical fancying the jingoistic idea of Ghazwa-e-Hind and still think of becoming the mayor of Mumbai. Unless, of course, the demographic change as warned by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, TIS, report of Hindus becoming a minority over some decades happens. If Varis is fancying that, then he has no option but to deal with Nitish Rane. And last, he has to stop guilt-tripping India on 1947. Muslims sought a nation for themselves and got Pakistan. Those who could not go, either for logistics or for India's essentially Hindu large-heartedness, cannot resurrect the same arguments that led to Pakistan. Unfortunately, Varis Pathan's Muslim mayor pitch smacks of one of Jinnah's 14 points that led to the Lahore resolution of the Muslim League and the birth of Pakistan. Mumbai does not need a Muslim mayor or a Hindu first citizen. It needs municipal governance and a set of city fathers who can deliver civic hygiene and not the apology of an urban slum that Mumbai looks from the aircrafts and the flights landing at the Santa Cruz airport. Every June, Mumbai braces for chaos as monsoon lashes the city. Roads turn into rivers, trains crawl to a halt. Every monsoon makes the Shanghai dream of Mumbai look even more distant. The BMC's annual budget for 2025 was a staggering 52,000 plus crores, bigger than the budgets of some of the smaller states in India. Yet the city's drainage system remains woefully inadequate. Governance failure is the real culprit. As India's financial capital, Mumbai contributes over 6% to the national GDP. Its governance cannot be reduced to communal arithmetic. The mayor should be chosen for vision and execution, not for religious identity. A Hindu or Muslim mayor will not stop waterlogging. A competent mayor will. A Marathi or non-Marathi mayor will not fix potholes. An accountable mayor will. And while we are on municipal governance, the last segment on a national shame that we have lived through this week.
और 2-3 दिन में पता नहीं एकदम ऐसा पानी आया है कि बस बीमारी हो गई.
पानी का इन्फेक्शन हुआ है. पानी से
मेरा सारा फोन है सर.
Indore, India's cleanest city for the last decade, lived through an ignominy this week. At least 14 people died after drinking contaminated water as leaking drainage pipes got mixed with water supply lines in Bhagirathpura area of the city. If this can happen to India's cleanest city, and Indore feels like our cleanest city, to be honest, when you visit, then you can imagine what the state of urban governance we have in India. It's a mess. It's a collective shame. Indore is criminal negligence that needs swift justice. It is surprising that no heads have rolled. The in-charge minister should have been sacked. The municipal commissioner should have been booted out. The mayor should have got the marching orders. Instead, we had the ugly pictures of a senior minister, Kailash Vijayvargiya, using uncouth language with the media, trying to put the onus entirely on the bureaucracy, scapegoating contractors, even as the plan to get clean water to the neighborhood got dumped in files. Look at this letter, written by municipal corporator of the concerned ward, Kamal Waghela. It is more a mea culpa of a rusted system that breathes on corruption and neglect. Here, the corporator is listing all the efforts put in by the people, petitioning all levels of government from the local municipal office to the chief minister's complaint window. Yet, for a year, the requests to replace the rusted, leaking sewage pipes gathered dust. It took 8 months to reach tendering stage, and then for another 6 months, nothing happened. More than a dozen lives are lost to poisonous water. Hundreds are struggling in hospitals. Thousands are affected. Indore is symptomatic of our urban governance mess. Most likely, the tender never reached execution stage because the government is low of cash, having transferred most money to the Ladli Behnas as part of direct benefit transfers scheme. Indore episode has happened fresh out of the Aravali judicial scandal, which was clearly a case of lack of oversight on what harm a lazy decision can cause to our ecology, if not outright corruption. The Aravali verdict was ameliorated by the Supreme Court itself, thankfully, but not before the National Capital Region lived through toxicity of 400 plus AQI. That included those Supreme Court justices, by the way, breathing same poisonous air. In a classic coming together of urban governance disaster and broken window economics, our lordships even toyed with the idea of reducing GST on air purifiers. If you have to die, at least die cheap. That seems to be the lesson from Delhi to Indore, BJP governments included. Thanks for watching.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा आरती और मसाला। ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
When we look out at the world, Samir, we look for partners. We don't look for preachers. Engaging America has become more complicated. You all know why. Huh? Having a neighbor that is an epicenter of global terrorism.
India in 2025 saw many international diplomatic moments of India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, who literally turned international politics and the diplomacy that comes with it into an art of savage roasts. From jeering comments on Pakistan to calling out Trump and Western hypocrisy, here are the top roast moments of the year 2025, where Jaishankar served cold but harsh truths month by month.
All big countries are unique to an extent, but we would certainly hope, to the extent we think of democracy as a universal aspiration, ideally a reality, but at least an aspiration. It is in large part because India chose a democratic model after independence. And it chose a democratic model because we had fundamentally a consultative, pluralistic society. Now, there was a time, and I have to say this in all honesty, where West treated democracy as a Western characteristic and was busy encouraging non-democratic forces in the global South. It still does. I mean, in many cases, I can point to some very recent ones, where actually everything that you say you value at home, you don't practice abroad. So I do think the rest of the global South will view, the successes and the shortcomings and the responses of other countries. They will also ask themselves which.
And here are the top headlines that we're tracking. This Sunday evening, captured Venezuelan president being questioned in custody at New York detention center over criminal charges. Protests have erupted against United States action against Venezuela. Demonstrators now demand release of Maduro and his wife. China urges United States to release Maduro. His wife at once asked to stop toppling the Venezuelan government. Bangladesh Cricket Board rattled by India's decision to oust player Mustafizur asks the ICC to shift the matches to Sri Lanka instead. 12 Maoists neutralized an encounter with security forces in Sukma. Arms and ammunition have been seized. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicolas Maduro is now on American soil, and from here on, even the slightest developments related to his trial will be closely watched globally. This following United States strike. Maduro and his wife were brought to United States. Here's a report on the initial images of Maduro, who was brought to New York.
Blindfolded, carrying a bottle of water in his hands, this is the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, now in US custody.
The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
US President Donald Trump himself shared the image of Nicolas Maduro, captured en route to US onboard American warship. Handcuffed and surrounded, these were the initial visuals of Maduro when he landed on the American soil. Amid high, intensive security, he was brought to US onboard warship USS Iwo Jima. Nicolas Maduro is now kept in a New York detention center as he awaits trial. Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores were captured following a massive US strike on Venezuela. The duo, along with Venezuela, now looks forward to uncertainty as they will now be put to trial on charges of narco-terror. US strikes on Saturday were another watershed for the American continent, a dramatic upturn of events watched closely by global diplomatic circles.
And after the capture of United States on Venezuela and taking the president and his wife in custody, the country's future is now being shaped far beyond its borders. With Trump administration openly asserting control over the transition process, global diplomacy is in motion and competing power centers emerging at home. The question is no longer on what happened, but what awaits Venezuela next.
Venezuela has entered an uncharted territory. For the first time in decades, the country's political future is being directly influenced by external power, marking a dramatic shift in how Venezuela may be governed in the months ahead. US President Donald Trump has announced that Washington will administer Venezuela during a transition period.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So We don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about.
The US says the objective is clear: prevent chaos and safeguard energy assets. Critics warn this approach risks being seen as external control rather than international support. Number of nations around the world have condemned the use of force against a sovereign country and its president. The international response is now accelerating. An emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council is scheduled for tomorrow, where the legality, scope and duration of US involvement will come under sharp scrutiny. Inside Venezuela, authority remains contested. The establishment has appointed Vice President Delcy Rodriguez as the interim president, rejecting US stewardship and asserting domestic constitutional continuity. Amid the churn, the attention is also firmly on opposition leader and Nobel laureate Maria Corina Machado. Seen by many as a unifying democratic figure, her stance on US involvement and her next moves could shape elections, negotiations and national reconciliation. The key question now: can a US-led transition produce stability without triggering nationalist backlash? And can Venezuelan political forces coalesce around a roadmap that leads to elections?
The political party of Maduro continues to be in power, the military remains in power, and the military remains supportive of the Maduro regime. So a regime change which America wanted has not yet happened, but in the coming days it could happen that people in Venezuela come out in the streets protesting, maybe celebrating the downfall of Maduro. There would be definitely a period of extreme turmoil in Venezuela in the coming days and weeks.
What happens next will ripple across Latin America, affecting migration, oil markets and regional power dynamics, while also redefining how global powers intervene in failing states. For millions of Venezuelans, this moment carries cautious hope. Whether it becomes a turning point towards recovery or another chapter of uncertainty will be decided in the days and weeks ahead.
The United States launched military strikes on Venezuela yesterday, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and triggering global shockwaves. Washington says the operation was driven by drug trafficking, migration and security concerns. Critics, however, point to oil and geopolitics. We explain why exactly the United States attacked Venezuela.
US forces air and ground operations in and around Caracas. Capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas